This is a news flash.
Good evening and welcome to this special edition of 6 News on a day of chaos in the United States, with armed Trump supporters storming the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. We're learning now that one woman has been killed in the violence while several others have been injured, and Democratic lawmakers are now calling for President Donald Trump to be ousted from office. US correspondent Jackson Gosnell begins our coverage.
We have some breaking news out of the United States. Now, I'm actually at home, but there wasn't enough time for me to go to the studio. There is breaking news regarding the 2020 election. Earlier this morning, President Trump called on supporters to pack Washington to protest the results of the election, where Joe Biden was declared the winner. He spoke to supporters. They marched to the Capitol. At the Capitol, that's where lawmakers met to decide if they would go with the Electoral College pick for each state or object to those. Now, for the state of Arizona, Republicans objected. They began talking about it, and then Trump supporters broke through the gates outside the Capitol, made it on the steps of the Capitol, then inside the Capitol, and then into the actual area where lawmakers vote on issues. There are videos circulating on the internet of where people have made it inside and images where they're sitting at the different areas. Also, there is emails that have been leaked from Speaker Pelosi's office because everyone was evacuated. All the staff was. They were given a gas mask and essentially went into another room. The vice president was there, but we're told he was likely moved via an underground tunnel to a secure location. But anyways, what I'm getting at here is that, they were in such a hurry, they left their emails up, and then people were able to gain access in there. One person was shot and is in critical condition. It's unknown why that person was shot, but there is a lot going on in the nation's capital. All of our news channels are on. They are tuned to this. NBC, CBS, Fox, everyone is covering this very unprecedented event. President-elect Joe Biden calling on people to leave, and President Trump also sending that same message saying you can go home now, essentially, and that, it's unfortunate that the president believes the results of the election are not accurate, but he's, again, asking his supporters to return home. The Washington, D.C. mayor has put a 6 p.m. curfew in effect. Everyone must be home by 6 o'clock. So this is ongoing. As we learn more, we'll be sure to pass it along to you. I'm reporting in the United States. I'm Jackson Gosnell.
Well, the world has been stunned by the shocking images showing lawlessness and violence at Capitol Hill, with what once stood as a beacon of democracy marred by violence, civil unrest, and a police shooting, resulting in the death of a woman. And there are new questions tonight about how protesters could so easily infiltrate the building, with police powerless to stop them, and a warning some of the vision in Connor Our 4K's report may be distressing for some viewers.
This is the moment pro-Trump rioters capture Capitol Hill. After scaling a wall, tearing down security fencing, and clashing with federal police, hundreds storm the historic building where utter chaos and lawlessness ensue. Police look powerless as protesters stroll the halls of Congress, pose for photos on the Senate floor, in Nancy Pelosi's desk. Some loot, others smash windows and start fires. Unaware or perhaps unfazed that destruction of government property carries a maximum of 10 years imprisonment, a $250,000 fine, or both. But it was the shooting death of one unarmed female protester that shocked the world. This video shows what appears to be an officer shoots the woman at close range in the chest. She is rushed out of the Capitol on a stretcher, but later dies. The whole ordeal forced US politicians into lockdown and Washington into a 12-hour curfew. The protest came after Donald Trump doubled down on his voter fraud tirade and implored tens of thousands of rally attendees to march on the Capitol.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women, and we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them, because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength and you have to be strong.
Joe Biden blaming Trump for insurrection.
Words of a president matter.
Facebook and YouTube have removed this video of Trump urging the rioters to go home, but saying he loves them. Twitter deleting his video, which they say could incite violence, and locking him out of the platform for at least 12 hours. Facebook for 24. Questions have been raised about the police response, with many asking how they could invade the Capitol so easily. Some believe it's an issue of race, citing the significant gulf between the police response in the Black Lives Matter protest and this.
Today was a dark day in the history of the United States Capitol. But thanks to the swift efforts of U.S. Capitol Police, federal, state, and local law enforcement, the violence was quelled, the Capitol is secured, and the people's work continues.
Now, breaking down the Capitol doors, there are terrorists, not a peaceful...
Connor Alforge, 6 News.
And as we continue our ongoing coverage, let's bring in Chief Reporter Jack Hahn live for us tonight. Jack, good evening to you. Protests have now flared up in state capitals across the United States.
Yeah, good evening to you, Leah. That's right. The protests not only contained to the US Capitol, Washington, D.C., but also to other state capitals around the United States. We are seeing scenes coming out of Portland, Oregon, of protesters there taking over the Capitol and really protesting right across the streets. It's gotten to the point where the local law enforcement department there has said that it is an illegal, unlawful assembly of protesters and they need to move on immediately. We are seeing scenes of violence and also altercations there. We understand there are a number of groups there. Of course, we've got the supporters of President Trump there that are supporting the president and his endeavours, but we also understand there are a number of third parties there. You would assume that they are not supporters of the president, and that is why there are altercations there. And of course, local law enforcement coming in there. We are seeing lots of scenes of violence coming from Portland, Oregon, but also really tense disagreements is one way to put it. Lots of loud altercations and also the use of pepper spray and other force happening there in Portland, Oregon. Also in the Midwest, in Kansas City, we are seeing that state capitol was also raided by supporters of President Trump today. They went into the state capitol there. Now, some security guards have alleged that it is legal for citizens to come into the state capitol, which is correct. But of course, these supporters, it is an unlawful assembly because some of them are armed, others of them are there to cause trouble. So we're seeing that come out of the Capitol there in Kansas. And really, this entire violence is and altercation is stretching right across the United States, and the whole world is watching. I want to read you some tweets from other world leaders that are weighing in on what's happening. Boris Johnson, the UK Prime Minister, said, and I quote, "Disgraceful scenes in the US Congress. The United States stands for democracy around the world, and it is now vital that there should be a peaceful and orderly transfer of power." You could imagine that the US President will not appreciate that tweet. The US President actually called Boris Johnson mini Trump or British Trump as a compliment for Boris Johnson, and now Boris Johnson saying that there should be a peaceful and orderly transfer of power. Nicola Sturgeon, who is the First Minister of Scotland, said the scenes from the Capitol are utterly horrifying. Solidarity with those in the United States on the side of democracy and a peaceful constitution of power. Shame on those who have incited this attack on democracy. The First Minister of Scotland, not a huge public supporter of President Trump, and telling him that he's not allowed to come to Scotland without an essential reason after January 20, believe it or not. We also understand the Prime Minister of Ireland said that the Irish people have a deep connection with the United States, and they are watching the scenes with great concern and dismay. We also heard from the Prime Minister Scott Morrison today. Let's take a listen.
We hope for a peaceful and stable transition of government to the new administration elected by the American people. And this is a difficult time for the United States, clearly. They're a great friend of Australia, and they're one of the world's greatest democracies. And so we just, our thoughts are with them, and we hope for that peaceful transition to take place.
Brad Hazzard, the New South Wales Health Minister, also said that the President should relook at the definition of democracy. But, you know, Leo, when we are watching these scenes, Think about this. The United States is our closest ally, and right now it is descending into chaos. And what will our adversaries make of this? A number of US congressmen made a point today on certain US media networks that the Chinese Communist Party would be sitting back, watching this from afar, absolutely loving the scenes of chaos that are coming out of the United States. So that is a big question, but also another question: how long will Republicans stand for the president and this type of activity that the president is promoting? Lindsey Graham, who prior to 2015 did not support the president in any way, shape or form, post 2015 has been one of his most loyalist supporters. Lindsey Graham said, "This is a national embarrassment," and off the heels of Republicans losing 2 Senate seats and control of the Senate, this really will serve as a catalyst about whether or not the Republicans will continue to stand with President Trump and this behaviour, or if they will return to their original path. It is all unfolding at the moment, Leo.
Alright, certainly a lot of questions needing to be answered about how these Trump supporters could so easily infiltrate the Capitol Hill building. Jack Hahn, live for us tonight, thank you. Well, earlier I spoke to former US Senator Donald Betts about the violence in Washington, D.C. Take a look.
My initial reaction was, what an embarrassment. This is terrible demonstration of to the rest of the world as to how our democracy is conducted, and the fire that was lit by the president to start this is unbelievable. There will be requests for answers. Look, the president, it's okay that you attack your enemies, but then when you go after your friends, I mean, Mike Pence has been loyal to the president from day one. And when he finally takes a stand to say, I cannot, my first interest is the interest of the United States. And I can't, no matter what president or what man asks me to upend my duty to democracy, this is one thing that I will not do, as well as Mitch McConnell and other Republicans. Now, Senator Cruz and Senator Hawley, they have to answer to the American public. We'll see how they behave after this incident later on today.
Can you imagine that, having to go under your chairs and put on masks and do that because of armed rioters?
Absolutely not. Our chamber was sacred. You would need permissions and sign-offs in order to walk on the Senate floor or the House floor. You were welcome to the gallery, but even in the gallery, you will be scrutinized by security, Capitol Police. This is unprecedented. It's a disgrace. It's embarrassing. And again, Senator Cruz, Senator Hawley, and President of the United States, Donald Trump, are going to have to answer to this. This is unprecedented. It's a shame. It really is. It's a sad day. But our democracy is strong. The United States is resilient, and we'll get through this better.
There you go, that was former US Senator Donald Betts speaking to me earlier. Well, there's a lot of anger in the media about these riots. Take a look at this. You can see some of these Trump supporters visibly attacking verbally and sometimes physically the media, trashing their equipment. And we've also seen reports that the words, quote, "murder the media," were etched on a door in the Capitol building. In fact, we're going to show you a bit of a clip here. Here's how one reporter in the US summed up the situation today.
The president's a goddamn lunatic. And that's it. I'm going to be very straight about it at this point because I really don't care. I get it. We're reporters. We're journalists. I don't name call. I don't name call on air. I don't name call on social media ever. But the president's a goddamn lunatic. And I understand, right? There's a large degree of objectivity. Oh, you're a reporter. You're not supposed to say stuff like that. You're supposed to just tell us the news. You're just supposed to report the news. I'm not going to normalize objectively bonkers effing behavior from the man with the nuclear codes, the most powerful person in the world. He is acting like a goddamn lunatic.
There you go, that was Cheddar's JD Durkin speaking on Cheddar earlier. Clearly, a lot of anger in the media right now. Well, also in the media, Sean Spicer, the former White House press secretary to Donald Trump and a longtime ally of the president, he spoke earlier on his show on Newsmax TV about the violence in Washington, D.C.
The images that I've seen this afternoon at the Capitol frankly disgust me. I have served this president. I have fought for his policies. I have fought for his election, and I will take a back seat to no one when it comes to fighting for conservative principles. But what I saw today was a disgrace at the Capitol. People disrespecting our police officers, committing acts of violence, attacking our public institutions, attacking our Capitol, interfering with the work of elected officials who, by the way, were utilizing the legal process to make their case for Donald Trump. We have a First Amendment right to peacefully protest, to address our grievances. But we are better than this, and we must denounce this. To those that say the other side did it first, the left started it, guess what? Two wrongs never make a right. Be better than them. Be an example of why America is great.
Alright, well finally tonight, dramatic video has been released showing the moment the Trump supporters broke into the Capitol Hill building with only one officer standing there, powerless to stop them. Take a look. Shocking scenes recorded there, and that is this special edition of 6 News on this Thursday evening. A reminder, you can stay up to date with all the latest developments and breaking news out of the US by going to our social pages. Just search 6 News A to find us. We'll leave you now with shocking pictures out of Washington DC on a day many Americans will never forget. I'm Leonardo Puglisi. Thanks for your company. Good night.